in 3, 2.
Plus the magic of de Gaulle's name should a nation of U.S. officials fear.
So you say you don't want to comment on your disagreements with me?
This country woke up this morning to a truly astonishing situation. Not one but two presidents in waiting.
More than 40 years ago, our David Halton began an everyday journey that would end up being extraordinary. He chose journalism as a career, and he chose to spend it in one place, the CBC. As you may know, David is retiring. After decades in the business, he's been there, done that, from war zones to the trenches of Canadian politics. He's told generations of Canadians so many stories in a style all his own, cool, intelligent, a pillar of integrity. Now with David, it's easy to rhyme off an endless series of flattering adjectives, and no one would object, except perhaps David. Always a gentleman, forever a journalist. So who better to tell the story of a reporter's odyssey than the man himself?
I'm Bob Buss, live on Capitol Hill. And with more CBS News, here's Christopher Glenn.
Big trouble for Jennifer.
Sometimes, you know, I can't quite believe it, that this is a city where my reporting career will come to an end after more than 4 decades in the business. I spent the last 14 years in Washington, and what an amazing time to be here. A presidential impeachment, 9/11, wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, the U.S. muscling itself into a new global role. As a foreign correspondent, you could hardly ask for more gripping, more dramatic stories. I must say I'm beginning to wonder what it'll actually be like to put on the microphone one last time. I sometimes think of myself as a marathon runner with the finishing line finally in sight.
CBC News, Washington.
This is the CBC Television Network.
This is some behind-the-scenes footage that we discovered in the CBC archives. It's election night in 1965, but it seems eons of time ago. Just about everyone smoking in those days, and just about everyone in the newsroom, white and male. I must say, I did a double take when I saw this young guy writing copy. Yes, it is me, looking gauche and intense. Doubtless a bundle of nerves and ambition. Probably rather intimidated, too, to be sitting so close to the CBC icons of that era. There was Knowlton Nash and a young and very brill-creamed Lloyd Robertson. I'm sure I fantasized about being in their place one day.
CBCQ next in 5, 4, 3,
2, 1.
Becoming the CBC correspondent in Paris was, I think, the luckiest break that I ever had in journalism. I freelanced in France for CBC Radio and Canadian newspapers for a period, and that got me back to the city where I most wanted to be, with the job that I most wanted to have.
You know, most foreign correspondents have put in a good few years back home in journalism and had their brains bashed about and their legs run out before they got a foreign posting. And here was this youngster, and he was bilingual, which was rare among correspondents in those days. And he had worked in Canada, and he knew France. And so this was something new. He was a phenomenon in a sense.
What's wrong with French education?
Well, again, saying there are two things. First,
will be a duel between Power and Pompidou for the second round.
Whether or not France returns to the barricades. David Halton in Paris, a news magazine.
Des fois, c'est ça que j'ai pensé. Bon, alors c'est clair maintenant, vas-y. Hey, bravo.
I'd always been captivated by Paris. It wasn't just the postcard images of the city, lovely as we all know they are, nor was it just living in a cradle of history. It was also the verve, the style of Parisians, the sheer intellectual vibrancy of the place.
And that image, plus the magic of de Gaulle's name, should enable the Gaullist majority to ride home safely in the March election.
That's my sound man in Paris, Paul Sayreville, who would become a lifelong friend. You know, we wallowed in nostalgia when we got together in Paris recently. Here's Paul Sayreville today. He was not only a great sound man, but a great companion as well. And that's Jean-Wright Berger, who combined a great sense of humor with a lot of wizardry as a cameraman. We shared a lot of good times and a lot of tough assignments together. In television, you know, you could be the best correspondent in the world and be nothing without a good crew to work with. I must say, when you look back on the 1960s, it really seemed to be a wonderful time to be a journalist.
It was fantastic because we were the king of the planet. You know, cameras were new, almost new. You arrived anywhere in Africa, in Asia, Europe, everywhere. The camera was there.
And the stories, they were great stories.
Time to do it. Yeah. That was nice.
Even now, you know, when you think of, you know, the way the journalists work, never they would have the wonderful lives that we had. Whatever story they could cover now, they would never have the lives that we had. And I think also the people like you, David, was taking care of their crew. I don't know how it is now, you know, but we were very close.
Tonight, a news magazine with correspondent David Halton, France and Revolution, 1968.
The stench of tear gas, fallen trees, and burned-out barricades. The aftermath of a night of rioting in Paris, the city they called the capital of peace.
Of all the stories I covered in Paris, I can't think of any more dramatic than the student worker rebellion that literally blew up in Paris in May of 1968. Hundreds, then thousands of students here in the Latin Quarter suddenly poured into the streets, began breaking windows here. Many of them described themselves as kind of Trotskyites, as Maoists, as anarchists, romantic revolutionaries who seemed to be ready to start a second French Revolution.
Calling for a revolution in France and attacking the what's called a rotten bourgeois society here. Do you believe all this stuff?
Well, I don't know what you call revolution.
The government decided at that point to send in the CRS, their Special Forces Police, and these were really tough guys, sometimes quite brutal, in fact, and they came down here, started charging the students. On a number of occasions, I saw them crack open heads. Another occasion, they took what appeared to be a 17-year-old girl, and they literally broke her arm over one of these metal barricades over here. It was quite amazing. The drama of the student worker revolt was still lingering over Paris when I moved on. It wasn't easy to leave. But I also had this insatiable curiosity to see new places. And in one totally unexpected way, my next assignment would change my life.